Thank you, Nirmala, for that magisterial overview of the issues that are at hand. I would also like to reiterate my appreciation and for the effort that Penguin has made. I hope that all mainstream publishers at all times are able to raise such mainstream issues with as much efficiency and commitment as has been displayed literally in the last few weeks. I will not say very much because I think that there is a substantial amount that has been written in this book, which has been written incidentally not only in the last few weeks, but has been written and has been available in the public domain more or less over the last 4 to 5 years. Several of the essays that are present in the book by all of us have been circulated. Many of you have read them before, and they're part of a growing body of, I think, common knowledge about the events of 13 December. And it's to the question of knowledge that Nirmala raised that I want to turn. What is the nature of common knowledge? We know that we do not know. And I think that's a point that many of us are making in this book. We are making an effort to highlight a certain degree of ambiguity, ambivalence, inconsistencies, things that seem not to match with each other on the one hand, and the terrible precise clarity of a court judgment that indicts people, sentences human beings to death. In a poem by Agha Shahid Ali, a poet from Kashmir, whose work I admire a great deal, he's once written that the worst is always precise. And there is a terrible precision to the fact of a death sentence, which, when ranged against the deep ambiguities and ambivalences that surround the circumstances of the events of 13 December, must make us consider, beyond the specific point of the events of 13 December, the terrible inhumanity and injustice of capital punishment as a form of dealing with human life. So my first plea is to also consider the fact that capital punishment in itself is something that completely cancels out the ambiguities, inconsistencies, and complexities of life that are sought to be cancelled with one fell blow. I take this as an opportunity for all of us to engage in some processes of reflection and introspection. And I particularly want to address this to all my friends in the print and electronic medias, all those who work with words and images. Let us now enter, at this point of time, as Nirmala has said, a campaign also to exercise a certain degree of restraint and reticence when we are quick to report matters that are presented to us by the state. I give you one very simple rule of thumb that I hope that my friends will begin to follow. Before the word terrorist, please use the word alleged. I repeatedly, in day after day in the newspapers, I see photographs of young men on the streets, often dead, sometimes handcuffed, with captions saying, terrorist killed, detained, arrested, found. How do we know who these people are? How are we to make judgments about their conduct, their life, their biographies, their motivations, simply on the basis of what is handed out to us in charge sheets and in press conferences such as the one that Nirmala referred to, where many of you might have been present and a police officer warned everyone concerned not to produce or not to reproduce an aspect of that incredible statement. Please let us enter a situation where a degree of ethical responsibility attends to all our vocations and our professional duties. And I'm saying this as someone who happens to work with words and images. I think words and images carry with them incredible amounts of responsibility. And this book is more than anything else, as far as I'm concerned, an appeal to make that responsibility something that is felt, something that is experienced, and something that your readers and viewers also are able to engage with. That makes for responsible, ethical media practice. I have very little else to say. I have learned a great deal from the things that I have read in this book. And I also want to say that the book actually sits on top of other materials. It sits on top of the kind of statements and arguments that have been made by the lawyers in the case, the legal team that has represented all of the accused in the 13th of December case, or many of the accused in the 13th of December case. It sits on reports that have been presented and prepared by civil liberties organizations like the People's Union for Democratic Rights. It sits on top of books like December 13th, Terror Over Democracy by Nirmalaksha Mukherjee, which actually substantively demonstrates so much that is at odds and that is awry with this case. So let's understand that this moment and this publication is actually an instance of a conversation between various efforts of the last 4 years. On the one hand, you have one kind of voice that says, hang Afzal, let's forget what happened about 13th of December. On the other hand, there is a multitude and plurality of voices, not always even agreeing with each other, and that I think is a good thing, which are able to say, with some amount of energy and integrity, that there is some amount of introspection, there is some amount of reflection and questioning that we all need to go into. And I think these two, this precision, this produced, manufactured, overdetermined precision, and an appeal towards understanding the complexities of the political and social processes that we're a part of, need to be weighed against each other. And I hope that in the end, the precision of a death sentence has to give way to the complexity of lived experience. Thank you very much.